Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. We are in 2026, and this is very exciting. I'm super pumped for the upcoming year. And before we dive in, I just want to mention that I do have a free atelier. It is 30 minutes. It is on January 14th. Lunchtime in Central European time, and we're just going to take half an hour and set aside that time to think a little about 2025 and specifically think forward into 2026. It is something that I took a lot of my clients through in December, and they found it amazing, and they were thrilled that they had taken the time, because we rarely take the time to think a little about what we've learned, where we've been, and what we want out of the upcoming year. So I will put the registration in the show notes, and I hope to see you there. It is free and it is going to be amazing. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about, first of all, leadership. Of course, this is a leadership podcast, but an example of leadership that I have found to be fascinating, and that is Taylor Swift. Now, stay with me if you are not a Taylor Swift fan. That is okay. I have lived in Europe now for 32 years, and so I wasn't in the US when the whole Taylor Swift kind of phenomenon started. And over the holidays, the end of the year holidays, I watched a documentary about Taylor Swift and her Eras tour. It was fascinating. And it got me really thinking about why the world loves Taylor Swift. And specifically, I looked at this documentary through the lens of a leader. And because when you watch it, and at the time of recording this podcast, I've only watched 4 episodes. So I might have other things to say after the last 2 episodes. But in the first 4 episodes, one of the things that surprised me, I think, the most is the admiration and the respect that the people who are in the tour and the people who work for her, how they talk about her. Now, you're probably going to say, okay, of course it's a documentary and she's supposed to be put in her best light. And of course they're not going to say anything negative. But still, you could really feel the admiration, the respect, the authenticity of what people were saying. It wasn't framed. And of course, she's not perfect, and I get it. But there were some things, and I want to talk a little bit about them, about how people saw her, but also how she came across. And that's why I think it's something that you can't really fake. And I don't think that Taylor Swift is able to fake these things, because in every single interaction, these specific traits came across. And for me, it was a beautiful lesson in leadership. And so I wanted to share some of those things with you today. So the first character trait is that she is authentic. And there are times when she's sitting around in an old t-shirt and sweatpants and playing music. Her hair's not done. Her makeup's not done. And she is just passionate about what she's doing. She's authentic about what she's saying. It's none of it is framed. And that authenticity that you see goes with my second point, which is vulnerability. She also tells real stories. She talks about, kind of what's hard for her or challenging things about being on tour for so long. Because I think it was an 18-month worldwide tour. But that authenticity plus her vulnerability was heartwarming. And that combination, I think, if I look back also and think about the leaders that I respect and my bosses that I had, that combination, it's not always that easy to find because there are so many things going on and so many moving parts in an organization that a lot of times we're scared to be authentic or we're scared to be really vulnerable. And I just think that is part of her success. There are things that she loves to do. For example, in several of the episodes, she brought people on stage to sing with her, or they decided to do a different choreography or change the orders of the songs. And it was just so natural. At the same time, you could fully understand how hard something like that would be. If you decide that, I can't remember if she was in Indianapolis or St. Louis, someplace in kind of mid-United States, and somebody she knew was also performing nearby. And so she called her and said, why don't you just come? And they ended up singing on stage together. And that, I am sure, is hard to organize, to anticipate, to rearrange things. So of course that puts stress on the team. But things like that also make her so successful. And you can just identify with, she's there because she wants her fans to have an unreal experience, to come away feeling wowed. And so she is not focusing on herself. She is focusing on the experience of her fans. And doing that, I think, is part of what has made her so successful. So that's the first thing, is the authenticity and the vulnerability. Second thing is she treats people with so much respect. Everybody is individuals, but you can see her, she's always thanking them. She's always encouraging them. If something was really hard, maybe she changed something at the last minute and she knows, what that is going to cost in terms of, organization and mental energy. And she just treats people with the utmost respect of how they show up, how they add value, how the show and the success of the tour, it's not about her, it's about her team. It's about every single person that is working on the tour, the dancers and the tech people and the publicist. And it's just insane how in meetings, she knows their name. She knows how they contribute. She listens to suggestions. All of those signs show me that she has utmost respect for those people, and that pays back. She's not doing it to think about what can I get out of this. How can I pressurize these people more? She's doing it because she's so passionate, and she also attracts people who are in the same vibe. She's willing to try new things. And I thought that she's not set in her ways. And so while of course there are things, and putting on a production like that, of course it takes a huge amount of organization and anticipation, but she's also open to trying new things. And just to give you an example, there's one song, and I am sorry, I do not know her music that well, but there's one song. All of the dancers are female. And there is a male dancer who has been on tour with her for a while, who was just dying to dance in that song. And there had never been a male dancer do that. And so she said, yes, let's do it. And there were so many examples of things like that just she said yes to, that she was open to, that she was listening to her team and the feedback that she was getting from different people. So I just found that her willingness to try new things was really interesting. And I think the one of the last things that I would take away in terms of her leadership is that she's also been so successful. One, because she's been consistent. I mean, she's just putting music out there all the time. And that coupled with the fact that she stays in her lane. So she's always she's not strongly affected, or at least you don't see it, by the trends and what other people are doing. You just see her do her thing because she's strongly convinced that what she's doing is right. It is her way. It is her way of contributing to the world, to the music industry. And just staying in her lane comes back to that first point of being so authentic and so authentically Taylor Swift. And when you see how her team members speak about her fans speak about her, when you see how she interacts with everybody, when you see at one point in time she brings up her professional NFL football player boyfriend into also the concert, it's just natural and authentic and passionate, and I'm not saying it's easy at all, but people want to follow her. People want to follow her because they want to be in that energy, in that positive energy. And so for me, there was just so many learnings and observations that I noticed watching this documentary that I think apply to leadership today. We need to be more authentic and vulnerable, ladies and gentlemen. We are people. We are managing people. And in a world that is going and leaning very heavily into ChatGPT, and I have nothing against AI, we still need human connection, and people crave human connection. And just that respect, passion, that's what this world needs. And I think all of these different lessons that I observed in Taylor Swift I think we can take them and use them at work. Treating people with respect, hugely important. Listening, trying new things. So I would encourage you, as we look forward into 2026, to think about how you could bring more authenticity to your leadership. How could you be more vulnerable? How could you be less affected by what other people think, say, do, or don't do about you? And what could you try? Because we're all here to learn. We're all here to evolve. And going into 2026 with those kinds of human values and intentions, if you bring that into your leadership, into your organization for the next year, I guarantee you that things will change. The positive spiral can only accelerate if you are bringing in respect, passion, authenticity, vulnerability, and a learning or a growth mindset. I'm so excited for the coming year. I can't wait to see what it brings to me personally and to you, my listeners, my clients. And if you are a Swiftie and you have anything else to add also, I would love to hear your thoughts. Have a fantastic day, fantastic week, everyone, and we'll talk soon.